Hey everybody, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here. Don't forget to subscribe, and it is Sunday, so we are doing breaches of the week. And it's great to be back in the saddle after 2 weeks off thanks to the RSA conference in San Francisco, and let's dive right in. And so, as always, I want to thank the following people that sent me a lot of this information. And that would be Norman Sandy, Jacqueline Wolf, Sarah Connor, Adam Pleasant, Steve Hall, and Krish Patel. And with that, let's dive in and start out big with Kelly Benefits. Now, in a filing with Maine, they said they discovered an incident that impacted 413,032 people. They said internal investigation, basically unauthorized access, and here we go. Names, dates of birth, social security numbers, tax ID, medical and health insurance records, and financial account info as well. Moving on, Ascension, one of the largest private healthcare systems here in the United States, they're claiming personal and healthcare information hit for over 430,000 of their patients due to a data breach last month. They revealed in notices that the information was stolen by basically an attack that impacted one of their former business partners back in December. I do not know basically who that business partner is, but it's a supply chain hit. And so we're talking about personal health information related to patient visits, including physician's name, admission and discharge dates, diagnosis and billing codes, medical records, and insurance company name. This could also include names, address, phone numbers, emails, dates of birth, race, gender, and social security numbers as well. So heads up to you, essentially Ascension Health patients. Moving on. Let's head to South Korea and talk about the SK Group, owner of SK Telecom, because their chairman, Chae Tae-won, apologized this past Wednesday for a massive data leak at basically the largest mobile carrier in South Korea, SK Telecom, which has basically caused concern among its 23 million users over the possible theft of their personal and financial information. Now, this breach that SK attributed to a malware attack was detected on April 18th, and subscribers have rushed to the carrier's outlets to replace SIM cards, essentially, and that is something that SK Telecom is offering for free. As that evolves, I will let you know what's going on there. Moving on. I want to give you an update on Nationwide Recovery Services. I've talked about them, or rather the organizations they work with that have had to declare breaches, and this past week was no different because Providence Swedish Hospital in Edmonds, Washington is now declaring as a result of using that debt collector. So heads up to you, if Nationwide Recovery Services is on you for some kind of debt, they might have gotten you exposed as well. Moving on. Elvis ISD, or Integrated School District in Texas. Local media is pressing their attorney general, asking why it wasn't until May 2nd that essentially they released information regarding Elvin's ISD's data breach. Elvin ISD also said on their end they followed the law and notified people impacted shortly after the breach that happened in June of last year. 47,000 people were hit, according to the Attorney General, and the AG also said medical and banking information, as well as names, addresses, social security, and other government ID numbers may have been released as a result of this breach. So if you're an Alvin, heads up to you. Go get secured, however you can do that in Texas. And with that, let's move on to our mini segment simply entitled, If You Just Paid for Cybersecurity, You Wouldn't Be Getting Data Breached, You Wouldn't Be Losing Your Reputation, and I definitely wouldn't be talking about you. And with that, let's start with Talent Launch, because they just agreed to pay a $1.2 million class action settlement to resolve claims that they failed to prevent a data breach that obviously compromised personal information. This happened in May of 2023, and if you have anything to do with Talent Launch, you've got till July 25th of this year to submit a claim. Go get paid. Moving on at T-Mobile, because not a week goes by that T-Mobile doesn't seem to be in breaches of the week news. And so if you're a customer or were one back in 2021, you may have a check automatically showing up in your mailbox. Now, if you did suffer financial loss, you can receive up to $25,000. Odds are most of you are going to receive $25, except heads up Californians, you're getting $100. So there you go. You can order McDonald's on DoorDash. So while those maximum amounts are basically the quick crunch of it, a $350 million settlement dividend between 76 million people works out to roughly $4.50 a person before attorney fees. So there you go. And odds are the 76 million people aren't going to submit a claim to get their $25 or $100 if you're in California. Moving on, iHeartMedia, the giant radio conglomerate, basically a complaint filed on behalf of a Tennessee resident President Cheryl Shields, basically, and other affected individuals, revolves around the significant delay in notifying those who were impacted by a data breach back in December. iHeartMedia did not complete its investigation until April 11th of this year and only began notifications basically around April 30th, over 4 months after the breach. And so here come the lawsuits. So heads up to you if you have an iHeartMedia account. Moving on. Via Credit Union, basically there's now a nationwide class action lawsuit that alleges Via failed to adequately protect personal information of more than 60,000 of its customers during a data breach earlier this year. Plaintiff William Runyon claims that Via Credit Union failed to implement adequate security controls to protect personally identifiable information during that January breach. So heads up to you if you're a member of Via Credit Union. I'm a big credit union fan. You should be using credit unions, and hopefully they'll get back on their feet. Moving on, let's talk about Hertz, the large car rental outfit. They have been hit with a class action lawsuit, multiple actually, over a data breach that exposed customers' personal information to attackers. Now, the federal suits have been filed in multiple states, including both Florida and Illinois. The cases would have to be qualified and certified for class action. This is just getting started, and so here we go. So heads up to you, if you are a Hertz customer and you had your data breached, you're eventually going to get your $25. Moving on, let's head on over. And for the record, those were, all of the lawsuits for this week. And if they had just paid for cybersecurity, they wouldn't be getting breached. They wouldn't be losing their reputation. And we wouldn't be talking about them right here. Now let's move on back to regular breaches and talk about Cobb County, Georgia. Now, Cobb County confirmed basically they had a March data breach that compromised the information of at least 10 people. And that was indeed a ransomware attack, which is what they are confirming now. They've basically said they declined to pay the ransom demand and they're taking their systems offline. We do not know exactly what was stolen or the amount, but if it's under 10 people, hopefully it's really mitigated, and sorry for those 10 people in Cobb County, Georgia. Moving on. American Income Life Insurance. American Income is now notifying people affected that personal information, including names, address, dates of birth, social security, email, health information, and insurance policies may have been stolen. I have no more information at this time, but heads up to you, customers of American Income Life Insurance. Moving on, Sogo Trade, one word. They are also notifying people that personal information, names, financial account numbers, social security, and tax IDs may have been stolen. I also have no idea how that breach happened, but heads up to you if you use Sogo Trade. I'm assuming for all your Sogo and trading needs. Moving on, Insight Partners. They're a large venture capital firm, I believe, out of Silicon Valley with over $90 billion in regulated assets under management. So these guys don't play. Anyway, they confirmed basically the compromise of data belonging to an unspecified number of individuals as a result of a January cyber attack. Infiltration of its systems facilitated the exfiltration of current and former employees' personal data, as well as information concerning management companies, portfolio firms, and some funds, including tax and banking details, which basically, according to Insight Partner, will be essentially told to the individuals that were impacted by this. So the interesting part about this is because they're venture capitalists, they own a good chunk of corporations. I'm not going to get into them right now, but we are going to start to see, I think, data breaches of those child companies as a result of basically their hit. So heads up to you, Insight Partners data breach. Moving on, Berkeley Research Group, or BRG, and this is both interesting and sad. Obviously, they're out of Berkeley, California. Now, the U.S. Department of Justice says that a recent data breach at BRG exposed the data of Catholic clergy abuse survivors in nearly a dozen bankruptcy lawsuits. Now, the breach, quote, affected multiple Chapter 11 cases and the security of data maintained by BRG in its role as a financial advisor to official committees in those cases. So the breach included data associated with 10 Catholic bankruptcy cases, 9 of which are diocesan or archdiocesan cases, and in one case filed by the Franciscan Friars of California. So obviously this is going to be a huge thing. Abuse is never a good thing whatsoever, and to be exposed for that is not a good thing either. So there you go. Best of luck to everybody involved in that situation. Moving on, Neighbors Credit Union on May 8th, they basically reported that they potentially had personal information hit. The incident was detected when suspicious activity was found in the Missouri-based credit union's computer network, and they potentially exposed social security numbers, financial account information, credit debit card numbers, and driver's licenses. I have no other information, but heads up to you, members of Neighbors Credit Union. Moving on, community capital management in Florida. Not much is known at the moment, but Social Security numbers may have been compromised. I literally have no other information. I went looking for this one, but community capital management in Florida, heads up to you in terms of your clients. Moving on, the city of Long Beach, about November 14th or so, the city of Long Beach became aware of an incident in their system. I do not know the stats of what exactly happened, but we do know they're declaring date of birth, financial account information, credit debit card numbers, social security numbers, biometric information, medical diagnosis, treatment information, medical provider information, health insurance information, driver's license, passport numbers, medical records, taxpayer IDs, and patient account information. Odds are they probably had an electronic medical records database get hit for their employees, but I'm not sure. But heads up, city of Long Beach, no word on Compton, and I know you two are together. Moving on. The Texas Health and Human Services Commission, they're updating their stats from our 2021 data breach because they just told another 33,529 Texans who receive agency services that their, quote, protected health and personally identifiable or sensitive personal information may have been inappropriately accessed, used, or disclosed. So that's all we know, but heads up, if you were caught up in the Texas Health and Human Services Commission data breach back then, best of luck. Hopefully you were notified. Moving on, Geologics Corporation. They recently announced a data breach that exposed the personal information of 11,948 individuals. We are talking about names, social security numbers, passports, financial account information, and driver's license and state IDs as well. And this is submitted to Texas. And they also said to the Texas Attorney General that medical and health insurance information may also have been hit, which I'm guessing is employees. So heads up, Geologics Corporation. Moving on, Ticket to Cash, which is actually a ticket resale platform I've never heard of. A major data breach involving over 500,000 records of Ticket to Cash is the name of the game here. Now, this 200 gig unprotected database contains sensitive information such as names, email addresses, home addresses, partial credit card data, along with thousands of ticket files, proof of transfers, and receipts. So if you're using Ticket to Cash to basically cash in those tickets because you can't make the concert, ooh, best of luck. Moving on, I want to give you a quick update on Oracle's ongoing data breach because we have new declarations, and this week it's Union Health System. And so some of these medical record ones that are being hit and I'm declaring, they might be Oracle, but they're not saying it. And so I'm obviously not going to basically attribute something that I don't have proof on. But Union Health System throwing Oracle under the bus, as quite frankly they should. And with that, let's go on to the finalies. And the first one I want to give you is an interesting update on PowerSchool. If you're a longtime listener, you know I've been talking for months on PowerSchool, at one point just updating it because pretty much every school, it seemed like in the United States and Canada, got hit on this one. But here's what's going on now, because some interesting things are happening, and quite frankly, it's rather surprising to me as well. Threat actors are actually trying to now extort some of the public schools by threatening basically them with teacher and student information that was stolen in that December 2024 data breach. And that's according to recent statements from EdTech software providers and the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. Now, PowerSchool confirmed this past Wednesday that it had actually paid the ransom to the attackers shortly after the December 28 data breach. Now, typically the way this works, and why this is a finally, is these attackers run on their reputations, meaning if you are basically saying, I, criminal, whatever, just want money from you, and I promise you I'm not going to do anything else with the data, you pay the money, and they may keep a copy of the data, but they're not putting it out publicly. It kind of dies on the vine in that sense, which is why a lot of organizations choose to pay ransom. Many choose not to pay ransom. That's a whole other thing. But the point is that this is kind of like an on your honor. And the reason being is if a group basically says, oh yes, we promise not to go ahead and, further harass anybody else or expose this data, and they go ahead and do it, the reputation is essentially ruined. Now, PowerSchool added that it believes threat actors seeking ransoms from schools are using the same compromised data set from the incident, which again includes a whole bunch of sensitive information up to social security and medical info. And so while PowerSchool's December data breach appears to impact a wide range of schools across North America, as I just mentioned, a spokesperson on Friday told K-12 Dive, which I'm guessing is like a publication, that the threat actors have only contacted 4 school districts. So in other words, they have all of this individual unique info on all these districts, but they're now starting to go after the school districts individually even though PowerSchool paid them. Now, I also understand that as well. This is all about money for them. And if you've got 1,000 different schools that you can extort to make 1,000 times more money than you made just from PowerSchool, I understand that as well. The other side of this that I didn't mention before, and I wanted to save this to the end, is that what they will do at this point is essentially just abandon once they've made what they think they are. They abandon the name, the site, and they just reorganize and call themselves something else. But researchers tend to find IOCs or indicators of compromise that really show, oh, it's the previous group just rebranding itself. That's what happened with REvil, basically before the Ukraine war. So this is obviously a huge issue, but school locations ranging from North Carolina to Toronto, Canada, have been receiving ransom threats now as a result of this, and that ain't cool. And if you're the attackers listening to this, and odds are you're not, because you're not probably on my side of the world, it's not cool, man. They paid you. You got to let it go. Next, finally, we have, and let's keep it in the ransomware world, because we're going to be talking about the LockBit ransomware gang as well. In full disclosure, I've actually had to negotiate with these guys. It's never fun. And for the record, we're also going to break out the world's tiniest violin here on this one, because the LockBit ransomware group itself has fallen victim to a data breach after its affiliate panels on the dark web were hacked and provided with a message containing a link to basically a SQL database dump of all of their information. Now, all of the group's management pages now display the text, quote, "Don't commit crimes. Crimes are bad. Greetings from Prague." The text is then accompanied by a download link for a zip file with essentially a massive data dump. Now, the threat actor known as Ray essentially was the first, essentially to basically put out this notice here in a zip file. And we're not saying Ray as the threat actor did this, but Ray noticed this. The zip file contains a SQL file with a dump, like I said, of their entire database. And according to analysis by Bleeping Computer, this database contains 20 tables. Now, some of this actually is really interesting. So for example, there's a table with almost 60,000 unique Bitcoin addresses. I assume these are not the wallets are necessarily washing the Bitcoin in, but those wallets they're basically getting money from and attaching to, because you got to pay a ransom, right? So you're going to get a crypto wallet to do that. Now, another table lists the individual malware builds that affiliates were creating for attacks. In some cases, the names of targets were also mentioned. Configurations for these builds are also stored, such as which ESXi servers had to be skipped or which files had to be encrypted. And one notable table contains 4,442 messages. Essentially, these are negotiations between LockBit and their victims that were sent between December 19th and April 29th from last year to this year. A user list also contains 75 administrators, it's a big group, and affiliates who had access to the panel, and a security expert also discovered that they were storing their passwords in plain text, because quite frankly, cybersecurity professionals, both criminal and regular, I've seen it so many times, don't drink their own Kool-Aid. Guys, we are not above encryption here. And some of the examples of their passwords, and they are terrible passwords: Weekend Lover 69, Moving Brick 69420, and you sure you know what 420 is, and LockBit Proud 231. So there you go. LockBit itself is hit. Again, nobody's losing sleep over it. Screw those guys. I am not a fan of the secondary dump and leak of their victims, but they were already publishing a complete list of their victims on their leak sites. That's what ransomware gangs do. So it's kind of mitigated here. So either way, screw those guys. I hope they all get caught and are in jail at some point sooner than later. And those were your breaches of the week. Were you impacted? Let me know. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private, secure, and informed. Take care.